Let's jump right in. Today, in this explainer, we're diving into the really fascinating nuances of ADHD. But we're focusing on a very specific presentation that, honestly, almost always slips completely under the radar. Drawing on some incredible psychiatric insights from Dr. Sawa, we're going to break down what is actually known as the predominantly inattentive type of ADHD. And what's absolutely crucial to know here is that this specific presentation is highly common in women. But because of how it manifests, it goes unnoticed for years, sometimes literally decades.
Okay, let's dive into this by addressing the elephant in the room. When you hear the term ADHD, what instantly comes to mind? For a lot of us, it's that classic stereotype, right? Hyperactive, restless kids, literally bouncing off the classroom walls. But the reality for the inattentive type is completely different. It's a world of invisible internal struggles. We actually see this very often in adult women who are just silently coping, desperately trying to keep their heads above water without anyone else even realizing how incredibly hard they're paddling underneath the surface.
Section 1, the overlooked ADHD.
Section 2, everyday signs of inattention.
To really understand this, we have to grasp one core concept. You absolutely do not need to have impulsivity or physical hyperactivity to have ADHD. For a huge number of people, they aren't physically restless at all. Their attention is just highly unregulated, which makes it incredibly easy to completely overlook as a neurological difference. So how does this actually play out in the real world? Well, it shows up as a cascade of everyday events where one totally logical yet kind of chaotic step leads right into another. Take trait number 1, a fridge overflowing with expired food. Now, this isn't just about being a little forgetful. This stems from a core difficulty with inventory management. If you have the inattentive type, you often genuinely forget what is already sitting right there in your fridge at home. So what happens? You go to the supermarket, you think, I might need milk, or I'm probably out of condiments, and you repeatedly buy the exact same items. Eventually, you end up with a fridge packed with duplicates, and by the time you actually realize it, the food has completely spoiled.
And you can see exactly how that first trait cascades right into trait 2, the chronically messy room. When you're constantly buying duplicates because you can't mentally track your inventory, well, things physically stock up. The items start piling on top of each other. Because everything gets layered and disorganized, it becomes, quite literally, impossible to know where anything is. The clutter isn't a conscious choice at all. It's just the physical byproduct of an internal working memory that is seriously struggling to keep tabs on a person's physical environment.
Now let's pivot from the physical environment to the mental one with trait 3. Have you ever been in the middle of talking, like actually speaking your own thoughts out loud, and suddenly thought, wait, what were we just talking about? For someone with predominantly inattentive ADHD, this kind of internal cognitive chaos happens all the time. You're passionately sharing your thoughts, talking away, and suddenly, the mental thread just snaps. Your brain is juggling so much background static that you literally have to stop and ask the person you're speaking with to remind you of your own conversation topic. It's wild, right?
Section 3, hidden costs and self-esteem.
Let's move to this next piece and see how it builds, because the true impact of this condition isn't just physical clutter or an awkward conversation. It's the hidden costs and the deeply emotional toll these invisible traits take on a person over an entire lifetime. And that brings us to trait 4, late diagnosis. Remember earlier how we said this condition lacks obvious physical hyperactivity? Well, because these individuals aren't outwardly disruptive, their struggles remain completely invisible in daily life. Dr. Sawa points out that even medical professionals and experts can miss it entirely during a standard consultation. And think about it, if an expert can't see it easily, you can imagine how incredibly hard it is for family members or colleagues to recognize that this person is actually dealing with a legitimate developmental condition.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how this invisible struggle leads directly to trait 5, severe low self-esteem. Because the signs are hidden and it doesn't look like a classic developmental condition, people just don't think, oh, I have a neurological difference. Instead, they think, I'm just sloppy. Because others can't see the internal chaos, the individual internalizes all of it. They're constantly asking themselves, why can't I just be organized like everyone else? Undiagnosed individuals assume they're just inherently lazy or deeply flawed. They are constantly blaming their own character rather than understanding their totally unique brain wiring.
Section 4, manage without blaming yourself. So how do we actually break this cycle of self-blame? The most absolutely critical step is learning to manage things without beating yourself up. We have to recognize a really simple truth here.
Just as some people are naturally gifted at playing the piano or naturally great at organizing, others are simply not wired that way. And you know what? That is completely okay. The whole goal of recognizing these signs is self-understanding, not self-blame. Once you stop beating yourself up over a neurological trait, you can actually start putting practical, guilt-free strategies into place. And this brilliantly illustrates Dr. Sanoa's highly actionable, practical hacks to take back control. Step 1. Always check the inside of your fridge right before you go shopping. Take a quick photo on your phone if you have to. This acts as an external working memory to completely prevent overbuying. Step 2. Set a firm, personalized time limit to throw away unused items. Whether it's 1 week or 1 month, make a self-guided rule. If you haven't used it within that specific time frame, it goes. This totally removes the emotional decision-making from discarding clutter and turns it into a simple, objective rule. The biggest takeaway here is that an ADHD diagnosis, or even just recognizing these traits in yourself, is definitely not a life sentence to a messy room. It's really just a blueprint for how your specific brain operates. And once you finally have that blueprint, you can build the right tools. So I want to turn this over to you now. What are your personal life hacks for organizing? Have you found unique coping mechanisms that completely transformed your spaces, or maybe quieted that internal chaos? Think about what strategies actually empower you. And remember, a messy fridge is absolutely not a measure of your character. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this provided some clarity and some relief.